2000s began with Y2K panic and ended with economic collapse. In between, our world was fundamentally transformed. The September 11th attacks reshaped global politics overnight. Smartphones and social media were born. Wars in Afghanistan and Iraq divided nations. Natural disasters from Hurricane Katrina to the Indian Ocean tsunami tested humanity's resilience. In just 10 years, the Internet became essential. America elected its first black president, and financial systems nearly collapsed. The headlines that dominated this decade didn't just capture our attention. They created the world we live in today. This is the story of 10 years that changed everything, told through the events that defined a generation and continue to shape our reality. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief as the dreaded Y2K computer bug failed to materialize. After months of preparation and billions spent on upgrades, January 1st arrived without the predicted technological apocalypse. The U.S. presidential election became one of the most contentious in history when George W. Bush and Al Gore faced off in an unprecedented legal battle over Florida's votes. The Supreme Court's 5-4 decision in Bush versus Gore ended the recount, effectively awarding the presidency to Bush despite Gore winning the popular vote. In technology, the dot-com bubble reached its peak before beginning to burst, wiping out trillions in market value. America Online merged with Time Warner in a $165 billion deal, the largest corporate merger in history at that time. September 11, 2001, redefined the decade when terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airliners, crashing 2 into the World Trade Center towers in New York City, 1 into the Pentagon, and 1 in a Pennsylvania field. Nearly 3,000 people died, and the attacks would reshape American foreign policy and domestic security for generations. In response, President Bush declared a war on terror. And by October, the U.S. and allies began military operations in Afghanistan, targeting the Taliban government that had harbored al-Qaeda. The technology world saw the debut of Apple's iPod, while Wikipedia launched online, beginning a revolution in how information would be shared and consumed. Corporate America faced a crisis of confidence as massive accounting scandals toppled energy giant Enron and telecommunications company WorldCom. The frauds led to the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, imposing strict new requirements on corporate governance. In Europe, 12 nations adopted the euro as their physical currency, creating one of the world's largest unified monetary zones. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security was established in response to the 9/11 attacks, representing the largest government reorganization in over half a century. The United States and allies invaded Iraq in March, toppling Saddam Hussein's regime based on claims of weapons of mass destruction that would later prove unfounded. The invasion led to a protracted conflict and occupation that would cost thousands of American and hundreds of thousands of Iraqi lives. A mysterious respiratory illness called SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome, emerged in China before spreading to multiple countries, offering a preview of how quickly global pandemics could develop in the interconnected world. The Human Genome Project was completed, mapping approximately 20,000 to 25,000 genes in human DNA after 13 years of research, while the Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated during re-entry, killing all 7 astronauts aboard. The decade's deadliest natural disaster struck on December 26th, when a massive underwater earthquake triggered a tsunami across the Indian Ocean, killing more than 230,000 people in 14 countries. Facebook launched from Mark Zuckerberg's Harvard dorm room, beginning social media's transformation of human communication, while Google went public, setting the stage for its dominance of the Internet economy. George W. Bush won re-election over John Kerry in another close presidential contest, and the Summer Olympics returned to their ancient birthplace in Athens, Greece. Hurricane Katrina slammed into the Gulf Coast in August, overwhelming New Orleans' levee system and causing catastrophic flooding. The storm killed over 1,800 people and displaced hundreds of thousands, while the federal government's slow response drew sharp criticism. The Iraq War continued to intensify as casualties mounted and sectarian violence grew. Images from Abu Ghraib prison shocked the world as evidence of prisoner abuse emerged. YouTube launched, revolutionizing video sharing and creating a new platform for citizen journalism and entertainment. The video sharing platform would be acquired by Google the following year for $1.65 billion. North Korea conducted its first nuclear test in October, joining the small club of nuclear-armed nations and setting off international alarm. The test accelerated concerns about nuclear proliferation and sparked new sanctions. Twitter launched its microblogging service, starting with Jack Dorsey's simple message, "Just setting up my 22TR." The platform would go on to transform how news breaks and political discourse unfolds. Saddam Hussein was executed in Iraq after being found guilty of crimes against humanity, while Democrats regained control of both houses of Congress in the U.S. midterm elections. Apple CEO Steve Jobs unveiled the iPhone in January, launching a product that would revolutionize mobile technology and change how billions of people communicate, shop, bank, and navigate daily life. The global financial crisis began to unfold as the U.S. subprime mortgage market collapsed. Bear Stearns hedge funds imploded, and major financial institutions started reporting massive losses. The final Harry Potter book was published to record-breaking sales, while the Writers Guild of America went on strike, disrupting television and film production for months. The financial crisis reached its peak in September, when Lehman Brothers collapsed, triggering a global economic panic. Stock markets plummeted worldwide as governments scrambled to bail out financial institutions deemed too big to fail. Barack Obama was elected as the first African-American president of the United States, defeating John McCain in an election where the economic crisis took center stage. His victory speech in Chicago's Grant Park drew enormous crowds celebrating the historic moment. China hosted the Summer Olympics in Beijing, using the Games to showcase its emergence as a global superpower with an opening ceremony of unprecedented scale and grandeur. The H1N1 swine flu virus spread rapidly around the world, triggering the first global pandemic declaration by the WHO since 1968. Though less deadly than initially feared, it highlighted vulnerabilities in global public health systems. President Obama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize just 9 months into his presidency, a controversial decision that recognized his diplomatic outreach efforts rather than specific achievements. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, died suddenly at age 50, triggering global mourning and renewed interest in his musical legacy. His memorial service was watched by an estimated 1 billion people worldwide. The 2000s weren't just another 10 years in history, they were the blueprint for our current world. Social media platforms born then now influence global politics. Smartphones evolved from that first iPhone. Security measures after September 11th permanently changed how we travel and communicate. The financial crisis reshaped economics and altered a generation's relationship with money. Most significantly, we entered the decade mostly offline and left it constantly connected. A fundamental shift that transformed how we work, socialize, and consume information. The echoes of the 2000s continue to reverberate through our lives today. In many ways, we're still living in the world that turbulent decade created.